Welcome to the latest episode of Through the Pages. I have another one from one of my favorite authors to discuss today, Armageddon in Retrospect by Kurt Vonnegut. This was actually a posthumous compilation, kind of, I think mostly put together by Mark, his son, because there's a really good intro, kind of long intro from Mark describing the kind of the theme of this compilation, that it's not just like, hey, I scrounged up some of my dad's stuff, want to buy it? It's more like things that didn't really fit into other ones, but all had the same theme of kind of like war. And so as the title would recommend or suggest, Armageddon in Retrospect, it's really talking about mostly his experience in war, but then also kind of looking at society and how we are shaped by war. And so I've heard his war story told 10 different ways, you know, like one of my favorite books of his was Bluebeard, and it was one of the first I read, not realizing how autobiographical, well, that's not the right way, how much of his story got woven into that story. Not that the character was so much like him, but and then mixed into other things, Slaughterhouse-Five, of course, but this had it in short stories in different ways, but then also included the letter he wrote to his dad in the time when he was a POW, when after a while in a war where just people are dying by the tens of thousands, if you stop hearing from your son for a while, you pretty much, I would assume, start to believe that they're gone. And then so this letter to him had I guess what I would say is a shocking amount of humor in it, because there was any recanting like what had just happened to him and where he was and that he was alive. But so there was just slight bits, and there was like, gee, like it was just astounding. It was a fantastic piece of writing, that individual letter, just because of not just the context, but just like, I would think my sense of humor would be gone, like completely after what he had gone through. Like, and through this book, I got to understand obviously much more of his personal story, having kind of run through it a couple different ways, some very literal, direct, some not fictionalized, but creative writing, I would say, like, but using that story. So there's some times where he can say it, but he doesn't bog you down with like, Jesus Christ, dude, like, are you okay? Like you can still tell it as like a story that you're just kind of in, or like a period piece maybe, but some of the writing are just like, oh my Lord, like it was staggering, like just the story of a POW, like, yeah, of what it is. But like, so this book has so much of his humor and vantage point weaved into it. It's so good. I will say it kind of like tapered off a bit. I think with any collection, you know, you got some great things. Oh man, people have never seen this one, and then you do want to kind of fill this thing out. A couple things that maybe weren't like top notch, but overall, I really enjoyed it, and I think I'm happy enough to be reading it right now. Like, so winter and the pandemic probably would have been like, this whole combination's getting bleak, like, just war story after war story. But ultimately, I really enjoyed it, and I liked the centralized theme to it. Even though it's chopped up things, it makes it feel more cohesive, obviously, but like it's something I find I lean away from short story compilations, because it just feels like start and stop, start and stop, start and stop. And with this, it felt more congruent. So I really enjoyed it. I love his short stories. The Gumbo Snuff Box is probably one of my favorites from him. It's behind me somewhere. This one, if you ever see that out, it's not the most exciting cover. Incredible picture of him on the back, and it's kind of thick, so you might be like, oh, I'll go for something small. Like, this is my favorite short story compilation of his. Yeah, I don't think I'll ever do a review and be like, Kurt Vonnegut missed on that one. Like, everything ever has been at least good. Some full on mind blowing, but yeah, this is a great one, and I think it's something that I would only give to someone who's like an existing fan already, because otherwise they'll just be like, oh, that's that bleak dude who talks about war a lot. Like, I feel like it'd be hard to get that out of my mind. Like, but when I read his other works, I don't see him as like a former POW. I just see him as this like witty man with a particular humanist view that I tend to like, don't always agree with in the spiritual sense, but like just appreciate so much. So yeah, Armageddon in Retrospect. If you're a Kurt Vonnegut fan, go for it.